Hi guys, welcome to Azure Content. First of all, thank you so much for still supporting this channel. I know I haven't uploaded videos from so long. Uh, Sorry for taking such a long break. I'll be trying to be consistent from now onwards in making and uploading videos in this channel. So please stay tuned and keep supporting this channel. This video is the continuation in Azure Synapse Analytics Real-Time Scenarios playlist. So this is going to be the 10th video in the playlist, and here we are going to practically see how to load latest and greatest data from ADLS to dedicated SQL pool. Okay, so let's see what we are going to learn as a part of this video. So as we discussed, we are going to practically see how to fetch the latest and greatest data, that is the maximum of last modified data from ADLS, that is Azure Data Lake Storage, and load it into dedicated SQL pool. Okay, so this is our requirement, and we will be doing this using Synapse Pipelines. Okay, and during the process, we will try to understand what is the concept of polybase and how it is applicable in Synapse Pipelines. Okay, so let's go through this workflow, which we have covered in the previous video also, where we have explained. Let me explain it once again. Let me just do a quick recap of this workflow. So we have the source data in our on-premise SQL server. So this is the database name AdventureWorks. So let me show you that. So this is the database that I have, and it has many tables. So this is going to be acting as the source data set. Okay, and from here we are going to load the data to our dedicated SQL pool. So which is this one. But we are going to take a middleware in this process, which is going to be ADLS, that is Azure Data Lake Storage will be acting as our staging layer in this process. So we are going to load from on-premise SQL Server to ADLS, and then from ADLS to dedicated SQL pool. Okay. So in our previous video, we have covered till this point. We have loaded the data to ADLS, and from ADLS, we are going to load the data to dedicated SQL pool in this video. And this layer is going to be acting as our caching layer, where we have our control tables, and it has all the metadata of the tables which we are going to load. So it has all the details like which table is active and which table is incremental and which table is full load kind of table. So these informations we have kept in the control table. Okay. So this is how it will work. So let's see all of these things in practical. Let me go to the pipeline. So this is the pipeline we created in our last video. So this is the lookup which is pointing to the control table, and this will return us all the tables which are in active state. So whatever output this lookup is going to give us, we will loop through each of those records using this for each, and inside for each we are going to check the condition, that is if the table is incremental kind of table or full load kind of table. So the moment we get to know if it is a incremental kind of table, then it will go inside true block, and if it is a full load kind of table, it will go inside the false block. So one important thing is that all the tables, even if it is an incremental kind of table, the first load will be a full load. So that after the first load, we will try to retrieve the last modified date from the destination table, and we will try to compare it with the source table, and we will only load the incremental records. Okay, so this is the whole structure, and we have covered only the full load part. This copy activity is responsible for loading from on-premise SQL Server to ADLS. Okay, so now what happens is, now the question arises, why can't we have another copy activity after this one and load the data from ADLS to dedicated SQL pool, and using the same dataset which we have as the sink of the first copy activity, right? But the problem here is, if you see the structure of the file, it is having UTC now. So based on the current time, it will generate the file, and suppose this copy activity is taking 10 minutes, and the same data set we are using as a source. So the UTC now time will change, right? Suppose this one started at 5 p.m. and the file which got generated is suppose some schema name dot table name, suppose person dot contact type underscore 2022 0205 5 p.m., right? So till this point when it will come, it will be 5:10, and it will actually expect a file with uh, the file name as 5:10 p.m., but it won't find it, and that's where the problem arises. So for that reason, we have to actually find out the latest file which is present in our folder, and then load it into our dedicated SQL pool. Okay, so this is the whole business requirement. So let me delete it, and let me show you the folder right now how it is. So these are the three folders: person.contact type, production.unit measure, and sales.salesperson. So if we go inside folder, we will see lots of files present, and during the runtime it will create another file with current date as the file name. So now we have to find out the latest of all the files present in this folder and load it into dedicated SQL pool. So for that, let me use a get metadata activity, and we will connect these two activities, and inside get metadata we will create another data set that will only point to each of the folders, not the file. So we will keep the files empty and we will point to only these folders dynamically. Okay, so for that, let me create another data set, and here I'll be using ADLS Gen 2 Parquet format, and let me give it a name as ADLS folder, and we will use the same link service, and let me point to the container which is dev, and I'll leave everything as blank. We will create parameters for that. So let me reopen the dataset and create parameters. Okay, so let me create schema name and table name, and use the same for the folder structure. So our folder structure is as schema name dot table name. So let me give concat function schema name, then dot table name. Okay, so we are done parameterizing the data set for the folder. Okay, so now we have to pass the value during the runtime. It will take each of the values. Okay, so as we are inside for each, so we can use, even if the for each item is not present here, we can use it. So we have to keep this in mind, that inside for each, even if we are not able to see item here because we are inside if block, but we can make use of this item function. The item dot table schema, and here item dot table underscore name. Why I am passing table underscore schema table underscore name? Because this is what we are getting from the lookup. So if I query control table control dot metadata, so you can see table underscore schema table underscore name. This is what we are getting as the lookup output, which we are passing in the for each. So now in the field list we will be passing child items, because this will give us all the file names present in each of the folders. Okay, so let us run till this point and see if we are getting the file names from each of these folders or not. So right now there are 4 files in each of the folders, and during the runtime it will create another file. So we are expecting file. So we are expecting 5 outputs, that is 5 file names. So let's see. So see, these during the runtime it is creating another file with the help of this copy activity. So the pipeline execution is completed. So for each of the folders, it is giving us the file names. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is the latest one. You can see this is the today's date. Okay, so this got generated during the runtime. Let me refresh here also. So you can see one another file got added here. So out of these files, how will we get what is the maximum or what is the latest and greatest file present in each of the folders? Okay, so for that, let me copy this entire child items JSON. Okay, let me copy it and paste it in our SQL server. Let me remove this and paste it here. So we will be using OpenJSON function, which we have already covered in part 8 of this playlist. So you can watch that to get full details on OpenJSON function. So here we will be declaring one variable. So let me do that. Declare output variable, which will be of an varchar type. And let me assign this value in that output variable. Okay. And now we will be using OpenJSON function. Select star from OpenJSON and pass this output variable. Okay. And we will be giving value to the output column. Let me give it as file name. So this will be of type varchar 100. I'm just randomly giving this uh, value as I'm just randomly giving this data type as varchar 100. And from which column path we are taking it? We will be taking it from name. We don't need this type. So we will be just storing the name part. So that is, so that's why I'm giving $.name. Let me run till this point and show you the output. So you can see it created a tabular structure of the file names, and from here we can use the max function to get the latest data. Okay, so max function will work with string also. So here you can see the format of files is YYYYMM, then DD, then HHMMSS. So it means because of having this structure, max function will work. Okay. So this is an advantage of keeping your file name in this structure, because it will first check the year. If the year of this file is greater than all of these, it means this is the latest, right? If we compare between these two files, everything is similar till this point, that is month, but the date is greater for this one. So max function will work here, and it will determine that this is the larger value than the above one. Okay, so this is how it will work. So that's why I will here replace star with maximum of file name. Okay, and let me give an alias as max file name. It will give us one output, which will be the maximum of all the files. So here you can see it gave us today's record, which is the maximum as we know. So let me copy the whole thing and paste it in a lookup. Let me go till this point. Let me add a lookup here, and we will run the same query in the Azure SQL Server. So let me paste it here, and we will replace this hard-coded value. Till this point, we will replace it with uh, the output of get metadata activity. Okay, so let me cut this and first take this one and then paste it. Okay, so here we will use this value, but as we know, the output of get metadata activity is present in child items array. Okay, so for that I'll be using output dot child items, and we will enclose it within curly braces, and also as this is a string, we will give a single quotes. Okay, because here also we gave the single quotes, so we cannot miss it, right? So now let me run this whole thing, and we are expecting it will create another file on the runtime, and it will give that value as the output of lookup activity. Okay, so let's see. So our execution is complete. Yeah, so we can see lookup is giving us maximum of all the files, and this is the latest value. You can see the time 1801 and this is the current time. Okay, so all the three outputs is giving us the latest file of all the three folders respectively. And now we will use the output of this lookup, which means this will be the source for the next copy activity, and our destination will be dedicated SQL pool. Okay, so let me add a copy activity for that. It's very simple concept. So let me add this here and let me connect it. And here in the copy activity, let me align it properly. Yeah, so in this copy activity, let me add a Parquet dataset. Okay, let me provide a value to these parameters. So we have to give item dot table schema. Similarly, we will give item dot table name here. Item dot table underscore name. But actually we will not be using file path in dataset because we have to pass the output of lookup activity as the source file, right? So for that we will use wildcard file path, and here in the folder path we will give the folder dynamically. Okay, so here we will make the folder dynamic as by concatenating item dot table schema and item dot table name. Okay, so we are good with the folder, and file will be actually the output of this lookup. So here let me give lookup to output, right? Lookup to output dot where is the output stored? Let me check the output first. So here you can see output dot value. In this value array, the first item of the array, and then max file name. Let me copy this. Let me again go to that point, to the copy data activity, and here we will be using output dot value property and first element of that array and max file name. So this is the file name, complete file name of each of these folders. It will dynamically give the maximum of each of the folders, maximum file of each of the folders. Okay, and in the sync we will create a new data set pointing to the dedicated SQL pool. So let me create that. I'll select my dedicated SQL pool, and the table name we will give dynamically. I'll not import schema. And so let me first create the parameters for the table names. Again, schema name and table name, because the same table name should be generated in the sync, whatever we are getting from the source. So let me edit this and just select schema name dot table name. Okay, so we are good with the sync dataset. Now we will pass the value during the runtime. It will be item dot table schema, sorry, table underscore schema. Similarly, item dot table underscore name, and here we are going to start talking about polybase concept. So here you can see if I hover on this uh, icon, here you can see polybase is a high throughput mechanism to load larger amount of data into Azure Synapse or SQL pool. Okay, so let me click on this to get a better idea. So here you can see they have talked about how to use polybase concept, and here in the tooltip you can see to achieve best performance use polybase or copy statement. And here you can see using polybase is the efficient way to load large amount of data into Azure Synapse Analytics with high throughput. Okay, so out of all the three options that we have, copy command and bulk insert and polybase, this is the most efficient way while we are dealing with Azure Synapse Analytics SQL pool tables, okay, or SQL pool database. So there are actually two ways of copying the data to dedicated SQL pool. One will be direct way, that is direct copy using polybase, and the other one is using staged copy by using polybase. Okay. So what is the difference between direct copy and staged copy is that if our source is any one of these, right, which is Azure Blob or Gen 1, ADLS Gen 1 or ADLS Gen 2, out of these any one source we are dealing with, then we can use direct copy of then we can use direct copy by using polybase. If our source is none of these three, then we need to use the staging layer. This is mandatory for all the sources other than those three. We can use staging copy in these three sources as well, but it is not mandatory. Okay. So here, let me give polybase, and we will talk about staging layer later on this video. So once I clicked it, it will use the concept of external table behind the scenes. We will cover those concepts in our upcoming videos. So now, as our table is not created in the dedicated SQL pool, we need to hit this auto create table. And how will it decide the table name? It will decide it during the runtime, as we have given our table name as dynamic table name. It will generate the table names with the help of the value what we are passing here. Okay. So now we are good for running the pipeline. Let me hit debug and see if the table is getting copied to dedicated SQL pool or not. Okay. So let's wait. So we can see the execution is completed, and the three copy data also ran successfully. So let's see if the dedicated SQL pool is having those three tables or not. Let me connect to the dedicated SQL pool. Yeah, let me hit refresh on the tables. So you can see these three tables got created, and let me hit select star from these tables, and we have the data uh, exactly as the source data. Now we have missed one point, because it is a full load. We need to truncate it every time it is loading. So in the dedicated SQL pool, query here in the pre-copy script, so before load, it will just check if the table exists, then truncate the table. Okay, so for that we will write if object ID is not null for that table. So if object ID of that table, so here we have to provide the table name. So we will make it dynamic by giving it as item dot table schema, then dot table name, item dot item dot table underscore name. Okay, so let me make it dynamic by giving it curly braces. So this is also called string interpolation, where we are making any of the variable as dynamic. Okay, so if object ID of this table is not null, then simply truncate table and then table name. So let me copy this till this point. I missed a quotes here, single quotes. Yeah, so we are done. Let me debug it again. Let's wait for its completion. So we can see two tables are copied, and here we have given the pre-copy script. So it is coming like this: if object ID of this table is not null, then truncate table name. Okay, so because of this, the row count will not change. It will not duplicate the data. So you can see it is still 20 rows. Okay, so here we have completed the loading of data, latest and greatest data from ADLS to SQL pool. Now just briefly talking about staging there. So to enable staging, we have to go to settings, and you can see there is an option called enable staging, and we have to provide a linked service. So we can choose any of the linked service pointing to ADLS, and you can or you cannot pass the storage path if we provide a storage path, it will uh, uh, create a file, a staging file in that storage path. If we do not provide, it will automatically create a folder by itself. Okay, so let's run it now, and by enabling the staging, and we will see what is happening in the background. Okay, so you can see right now there are only two containers in my ADLS, and during the runtime it will actually create another container for treating it as the interim staging layer. Okay, so let's run it with staging enabled, and we will see what happens there. So this copy activity is the first copy activity, which is copying the data from on-premise to ADLS. After the second copy activity will actually create a staging layer, and then from this staging layer it will uh, copy the data. Okay, so here you can see now copy 2 has started, and let me keep hitting refresh here. Now you can see this staging layer got created automatically, and there are files here, right? So once the table gets copied successfully, this will be gone automatically. Let me hit the refresh, keep refreshing it. Okay, so this is still in progress, that's why those are those files are present. So once it is successful, it will be deleting these temporary files. So you can see on the runtime it deleted the temporary files, but this folder will stay there. Okay, and it will not have anything. So let me show you the execution also. So once this is completed, you can see this created an interim stage here, and it loaded from ADLS to ADLS, and then from ADLS to a dedicated SQL pool. So this is what interim storage layer is. Okay, but if we do not have ADLS as the source, then we cannot skip this staging. Okay, I mean, if the source is on premise, and from on premise we are directly loading to dedicated SQL pool, then our staging must be checked. Okay, so let me go through the PowerPoint presentation again. So we have already covered this concept, but let me walk you through the points once again. So polybase is the most efficient way to move data into Synapse SQL pool. Out of the three options that we have, copy data and bulk insert and polybase, polybase is the most efficient way when you are dealing with Azure Synapse SQL pool, and it provides high throughput. As we saw, it successfully completed the execution in no span of time, and it directly supports blob storage, ADLS Gen 1 and Gen 2. You do not need to use the interim storage layer if these are the source data. These are the data stores acting as the source while copying to Synapse SQL pool. Okay, but in case these are not the source, then we need to enable copy for staging copy during the load. Okay, so that's it for this video, guys. Please stay tuned, and in the next video we will cover the incremental load part. So please keep supporting, and thank you so much for watching this video.